Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Furman Joust podcast. Jay here, along with the dean himself, SoCon John. John, great to be here. Great backdrop, beautiful scenery. And John, this week we got Furman at Campbell. What's your thoughts going into this?
Well, I mean, Campbell's a team that is basically, we were just talking about it before we went on, that is a team full of transfers. I think I counted 45 on their roster. And it's going to be a real challenge because you don't really know who they are yet, because they played East Carolina and they played a good Rhode Island team in the beginning of the very first game of the season on the road, and they had I think the +2 turnover margin, so they were able to stay in that game a little bit and actually had, I think, the lead going to the fourth quarter. I think a little bit about Campbell is they're sort of some of the old Elon teams that used to be in the Southern Conference. They're sort of a run and shoot or an air raid offense. They're going to throw it all over the place, and they don't really, similar to maybe Samford a little bit in this league and maybe Western Carolina. So they don't put a lot of emphasis on the running game. And, you know, in contrast to that, I think will be interesting to see which Furman running game shows up, the one that had, most of the rushing yards, 65 yards in the first quarter, or the one that generated about, I guess, 42 the rest of the game. So that'll be something to watch on Saturday, and something I'll have my eye on. But Campbell's a team that wasn't predicted to do too well in their league, but I think a lot of that has to do with there's just so much new faces on that team, and it's basically a team of transfers, and so it'll be interesting. We don't really know a lot about them yet, but they do have, I think, a couple guys in their defensive backfield. I think Guzman was one of them that had a pretty good year last year and was a preseason all-conference player. So I look for it to be a challenging game. They're pretty competitive, even though they didn't finish well in the CAA last year. They've been pretty competitive since coming into the league.
Now, to what we looked at in this other game, it all starts with Trey, quarterback Trey Hidden. What is your thoughts going into this game for Trey? What do you think he needs to do to establish himself back to what Furman got whenever they signed him?
I think he's done a pretty good job. I mean, you can tell he's improved as a passer. I think he's a lot more composed. What he wants to do with the ball. The only couple of times I saw there might have been a hesitation was on some of those read. One of the things we got spoiled by Tyler Huff being so good at was just being able to read the defenses and holding that ball till the very last second. I mean, I think that's more him. I think from what I read out of it is just him maybe a little bit scared to make a mistake, and like Tyler was to the point in his career where he really didn't care if he made a mistake. I mean, he just took a lot of chances.
Living on a prayer.
But, that comes with a little bit with maturity, too.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can see Trey, his ability as the passer is better than what Tyler Hupp even had at Furman. I mean, he completed his first, 13 passes on Saturday. So there's a lot of talent there. It's just getting the maturity to come into balance with that talent. And I think you've even seen that in the first 2 games of his overall improvement.
Well, he's definitely got the weapons at wide receiver, and we could actually see 2 of them get over 200 yards for the year, and that's going to be Hester and
Evan James.
Evan James, correct. What's your thoughts on the wide receiving corps so far this year?
I really think they have more ability to do things in space. So, you see them run a lot of intermediate, slant routes over the middle, tunnel screens, stuff like that to Evan James, because when he gets the ball, he can do so much with the ball because of his speed and his elusiveness. And I think sometimes one of the negative things you see is they are, Devin both and Evan are both very elusive. So to make almost sometimes when they catch the ball and they know a defender's right here, they sort of go backwards to try to elude that defender. And sometimes it happens where you lose a yard or two when you're trying to get, but they had the athleticism to obviously make that move and get around those guys. So when it all works out, you're going to be like, well, that looked great on
Yeah.
tape. But when it doesn't, sometimes you lose that yard or two, and it may be on a third down play where you need 8, you get 7. So that I don't, you can't coach instinct. So that's just going to come with, like I said, maturity with that too. But I think Evan's just such a weapon, and Devin really too. Devin even we saw what he could do on the return in the opener. So as a return guy, he's even more. He's a threat in that area too. So you've got speed everywhere, and pretty much you're doing a lot of this without a guy in Ben Ferguson, who was advertised maybe as being the guy with the best hands on the team and one of the more veteran receivers. And then we've also seen the effect and impact that Joshua Burrell has had this year in making some clutch catches, especially in the first game.
Exactly. Now on defense has been doing their job this year. Yeah, they've let up a couple of plays, and even coaches admitted, we just missed a couple assignments. But the defense has really been great, especially that defensive line.
Right. I think they've done a great job. They've been aggressive, and they looked at similar, you see similarities to that unit a couple of years ago. There was a ton of injuries last year. I think when they lost Xavier, I think it was the Citadel game, that made a huge difference. And, you still had Luke around and Evan, but you were asking those guys to do a lot. And so this year, I think having that year to kind of learn for some of those guys, especially guys like Caldwell and Joshua Stone King, I think they've elevated their game to a level that of improvement to where they can be not only leaders but also leaders on and off the field. So I think you've seen from both of them in the first 2 games, their maturity level is actually to a level that I was unexpected to be at quite to this point in their career. So I'm sure the coaching staff, and especially defensive coordinator Dwayne Vaughn, is pretty excited about that going forward.
Now they're going to be going up against a quarterback just like the one that they saw this past weekend. Tell us a little bit about the Campbell quarterback.
Well, he's a guy that he likes to get rid of it, and he likes a lot of repetitions, and he's thrown a lot of passes in 2 games, and I think he's a guy that he's a little bit. I don't know if he's. I think probably Hurst for PC was a guy that is a little bit mature beyond his years to be just. I guess he's just a sophomore.
Yeah.
And so I think. Judging from the little I've seen of it, I would say that, PC's got one of the better quarterbacks that Furman will see this year. And that's not taking anything away from Campbell's quarterback, because I think they've got more athletes all around their quarterback on offense. So,
yeah.
But I would find it hard to believe that you would have a guy that just had an innate ability that Hurst did to know when pressure and know which side pressure was coming from, like he did Saturday, to just be a sophomore and be able to not only know that but get rid of it in time.
Now, whatever we think about Furman, we think about their special teams. But this is a Furman team that has yet to have a block this year. That's something that we're used to.
Yeah.
And also, this past game, we thought there was going to be a field goal. Coach said he wished, in hindsight, he might have would have kicked it.
Right.
That Evan wasn't hurt, because we're so used to him kicking 50 to 60-yard field goals. What's your thoughts about the Furman special team so far?
Oh, it's for Furman, it's been a great equalizer. I think having a guy like Ian, is a weapon that, it's hard to put into a box, or it's hard to. It's such a weapon that you're a threat once you really cross midfield. And I know sometimes when your offense is struggling, knowing that or having that in your back of your mind or back pocket or whatever, and knowing that the efficiency is actually better when Ian's kicking from a longer distance.
Yeah.
That you always feel like, you kind of feel like you have 3 points. And just looking over some of the games from the league, I know Wofford has had they've struggled on offense, and they've had a number of opportunities where they could, put 3 points on the board, which would have been big in either the South Carolina State game or the second game against Richmond. And I think they were 0 for 3 against South Carolina State, and maybe I think they had a 47-yarder. So they've kind of had open competition at kicker.
Yeah.
Furman has the luxury of knowing they've got a veteran guy, a 4-year guy that actually as the distance goes further, he's actually better.
Yeah.
And I think also he's become a weapon as a punter as well. And I think
Very
that's
much.
probably one of the things that in kickoffs that has gotten overlooked most about Ian as a true all-around specialist. He's not just a place kicker. He's a punter. He handles kickoffs, so he can do it all. And not only that, he's accurate at pretty much every facet of the kicking game. So you don't see a lot of guys around the country that can do all three really good.
And we also have a Devin Hester. Now, it's not the Devin Hesters that was
Right.
there's a big misconception about that. Devin Hester Jr. is not related to
Right.
the Devin Hester of the Bears and Falcons. But he has just been remarkable on kickoffs this year and punts.
Yeah, I mean he's one of those guys that was sort of a diamond in the rough. Like I think he's was from a small school, if I'm not mistaken, in and around Athens, I believe. And he's sort of overlooked, but like Furman's staff did a really nice job of picking up on the skills and the speed that young man has, and he's only going to contribute more and more as he gets the ball in his hands more and more. So I think they've realized, hey, we need to get this guy his hands on the ball some more, and Evan James as well. The more you can get those guys, collectively in the offense, good things are going to happen with Furman's passing game. And I really feel like this contingent of receivers is probably one of the stronger and deepest probably contingents they've had in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, going back even to like 2004, 2005, when guys like Justin Stepp and Brian Bratton and Isaac West were here. So they've got, like, normally Furman has one, maybe two threats. They've got several that can not only be a factor as possession receivers, but also deep. So
Yeah, there's over 6 or 7 that are almost
Right.
at 100 yards. So, and 2 that are over. So one that's over, one that's real close in Hester, and then there's 5 other ones that are close to it. That could be at this game. Now, one thing me and you kind of brashed over a little bit after the coaches' press conference was the strength of the SoCon this year. We thought going into SoCon Media Day, this was going to be the strongest SoCon ever that we've had, and so far it's taken quite a hit instead of going forward. What's your thoughts?
I think part of that is, teams are. I'm always a big believer in that you can't really. It's hard because the playoff committee is going to look at right now and they're saying, well, you're not doing. But teams typically in football, they get better as the season goes along. Yeah. But the problem with that is you're in a conference play when your teams are starting to get better. So you're saying, well, that team lost to that team, in non-conference play. So you don't really, people kind of throw that out because you're playing on in-conference opponents.
Yeah.
And they don't really get to see. So my emphasis there was you got to win these non-conference games because that's all the national guys are looking at. They're not looking at like how much you've improved since you played PC or you play, so.
Yeah.
And it's hard to really see when you're just playing guys in your own conference and you don't have that to compare to any other league around the country that has done this out of conference or whatever. So, but I think that there's a lot of good coaches in this league that are very sort of old school, if you will, and I think that how they've built programs in the past is completely different than what they're having to do now. And so what I see is that you're getting all this talent and you don't quite know how to plug that talent in right away and it be effective, from the outset of the season, because the one advantage we see with a team like PC is, they don't have a lot of transfers, but they had a lot of continuity, and they had a lot of, they've been together off the field, and that's the tough thing that you have when you bring in a lot of transfers like a Campbell or like anyone. So I think that's the one advantage that actually works in Furman's favor is they're adding guys that can add to an area on the team instead of just adding a bunch of players to add them.
Yeah.
Like some people do.
Yeah, I get that. Well, folks, this week it's going to be at Campbell. Furman will be this weekend. What time? 2 o'clock?
3:30 kickoff.
3:30 kickoff.
And if you can't make it up to Booze Creek and Barker Lane Stadium, the game I think will be on Flow Sports.
Flow Sports, and if not, Dan Scott starts
Right.
at 2
So you
o'clock
can-
the pregame,
you're right.
so it'll be on the radio.
Yeah, and so which I would advise turning down the CAA guys and turning up Dan Scott and listening to him.
Exactly.
And if you have to have a video feed, I think it's pretty astronomical. It's like $25 because you have
Yeah.
to subscribe for a month. But
Yeah.
that's the disadvantage of not being on ESPN platform.
Yep.
So anyway,
Well, folks, we make sure you check the team out. Make sure you support your Furman Paladins. We also want to say that last night, Doug Allison and the men's soccer team tied Virginia Tech at
right.
a 0-0 draw, and it was a matchup of top 10 teams. And guess what? It doesn't stop. They're going to go against Gardner Webb, another top 10 soccer
Gardner
team.
Webb, who just knocked off top 10 or top 5 West Virginia.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, and so the running Bulldogs are for real. And
Yep.
I think they said they were 5-0-0 so far this season. So they're one of the few really unbeaten, untied teams in the country. So it'll be a tough test.
There you go, folks. So make sure you go out there. The women's soccer team also is in play this weekend. So if you can't come over here, go to Campbell, go out and support your Furman soccer team. Also, volleyball will be in effect this weekend. They're having a big weekend of volleyball. They're having a Furman Invitational. And then also the women's tennis team will be here, and they will have all for the, I forgot the lady's name. It's the tournament here for the former Furman ladies coach.
Not Debbie Southern, is that right?
Yeah, yes, the Southern Classic. Clemson, Wake Forest, NC State. There's going to be a ton of top teams here from the Big Ten, the ACC, the SEC, the SoCon. They're going to all be here this weekend. So make sure you come out and support the young ladies. That I'm sure they would love to have you here. And SoCon John, appreciate you joining me for this. Sorry it got a little dark there for a second.
Yeah.
Our backlight went out, but
They
we
have this
appreciate
thing at Furman that must conserve like power or something.
Yeah, if you don't move enough, it'll shut down. But we appreciate y'all joining us. Furman, of course, will be taking on Campbell this weekend, and then the following weekend is going to be an off date.
Yeah, and then they'll head into Southern Conference play against Samford.
Yep.
On the road.
On the road. So it's going to be about 3 weeks before we see our Furman Paladins back here at Paladin Stadium. And when they do return, we're going to have some fun. We're going to have Furman Game Day that's going to be starting. And we're looking forward to that. Also, we have our TGFF Game Day. Me and SoCon John will be a part of that show too. So lots of things going on here at Furman as we start to grow and just make a big fun place to bring your families out. Make sure you come. It's one of the best places to come watch a college football game. I mean, you can't beat the scenery, you can't beat the competition, and just make sure you come out and support the Furman Sports Network. Thank you for watching.